Yeah, g'day everyone and welcome back to the TryPod Live with Winnie and Clarkey. Here to break down round 6, break down all the NRL action from a betting lens, give you our best bets and talk about every single game live with you guys all over social media. Winnie, I believe a 10-7 best bet record so far this season. What do you make of that and how you been?
Well, 10-7 is what it's near 60%, which is the holy grail that you want to be at. But I feel like we've deserved better. 3-2 in round 5. Why should it have been more? Because all I've done is talk nonstop about winless teams at home. Parramatta was fit the bill perfectly. Plus 4.5 was the line. Yet again, it's not even a one-off. Yet again, I'm on the first half line, which Para fails to cover. But they play good enough footy to come back from 12 and win outright, but did not cover first half lines. That's one of my losers. My other losers, Knights in the final game, which I'll cop, but 3 winners. Storm as easy as you like. Finns as easy as you like. And Bunnies, Roosters, either 1-12 was very narrow as well. The Guns, I've been thinking about our hired guns. Can that be their name? Well, I thought, what about the Sharpshooters? That could be the nickname of the group. They went 2-1 and then plus another winner because Benny H is overseas. His clip didn't come through. We haven't got his clip, but he did post in the group for official records. That won't count for what appears on the show. But we've got Maddie and Padonis a scorching 6-0 combined. However, I don't want to be one of those guys that only talks about wins, pretends losses aren't there. Benny Williamson is unfortunately well aware he's 0-3. I've got clips from all those guys tonight to share and Nicole as well. Clarkey's Collect got up on the weekend too, mate. I want to tell the audience I'm really proud of Clarkey. His favourite bet of the week was that winless team at home. He showed me how it was done. Just play the handicap. Don't outsmart yourself. And another thing, Clarkey, you are a year older and wiser since last week too. Happy birthday again. Obviously, it wasn't the happiest day for you over the weekend.
Mate, it wasn't the happiest day, but we live and we learn. At the end of the day, Clarkey's Collect is back, and that is why you see this fresh WBO World Boxing Championship draped over my shoulder. Of course, I've got another Clarkey's Collect bet coming for you later in the show, guys, which I'm very confident will cash again. But before we get to that, Winnie, we'll get the sharpshooters to jump in throughout the show as required. Let's go to you for your best bets, mate. What are you backing this round and why?
So I've got 4 best bets, but actually I just want to tell our audience as well something. There's a question there about mixed matchup. We're still negotiating for a mixed matchup to live on. But the truth is right now, guys, we don't have a show sponsor. So there is no segment in this show where we earn anything from. We don't have any earnings associated with this show. We haven't since the 1st of April. And I actually said to Clarkey, if he wanted a bye week or a couple of weeks, break off the show to not have to commit to it, to not have to give up his time. He's a busy man with a family and lots of commitments, of course. There's essentially nothing in it for Clarkey doing this right now, preparing the notes, the graphics, being on the show. But Clarkey, I just want to tell the audience, Clarkey basically refused that, said he's got my back, he's going to remain here. And by the way, I'm not just saying that so that you can't take shows off later. You absolutely can. As we try and work behind the scenes to lock a sponsor down. But I just want to take the opportunity to say, I appreciate you. I'm sure the audience does. And just share a little bit behind the scenes for those who might be curious. Some people are probably saying, why should you make $1 out of this? You just jibber jabber for an hour, a couple of times a week and get abused by a few strangers when you lose a tip. That's not that hard, is it? Right. But ideally, it is a big commitment and we need it to make sense for us to allocate this much time to do it long term. So hopefully we'll organise that. And hopefully this week there won't be too many tips for me to cop grief with if I can keep the winning weeks going. And here are my 4 favourite plays. I'm going to start with Finns Panthers. Big losing streak coming into town against a big winning streak with the Finns. But I'm going either team 1-12. It's $1.95 on 365 because I know Panthers will be locked in and I can't see them losing 13 plus. So I know that it's a simplistic and not completely true way of looking at it to say I'm getting plus 12.5 with the Finns, but I basically feel it falls in that margin. I just think Panthers just have to get the 2 points. That's most important. It's not the time to make a statement. And I also just have a lot of belief in the Finns who get back Tommy Gilbert as well to a side that played their best footy last week, might have got confidence out of that. Then I'm going to lay 5.5 with the Sharks in Perth on Saturday, $1.91, basically everywhere. The Sharks play Manly. I just think the Sharks are about 6 points better than Manly, to make it really clear, and Cronulla with that familiarity playing in Perth several times now. And then the second of the doubleheader, I'm also going to take the favourite, but it's a short favourite in North Queensland, -1.5 at $1.90. I think North Queensland's a little bit better than the Bunnies, and the Cowboys are at full strength, while Souths will start a new 6 and 7, and it's only a -1.5. It's as simple as that for me. And then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to tempt fate. I'm going to take a first half line with an underdog I fancy. It's going to be the Tigers, who I could take 4.5. I'm telling you now, because you can take it and you probably win the audience, but I'm going to go +2.5 first half. $1.88. That's Wes playing in Newcastle with Luai back, with Faiunu back to the second row, Samuela that is, while the Knights have about 5 outs. And for me, it makes it a dead even game. Another interesting quirk of round 6, we've got a couple of rematches in this young season. So you learn a little bit about the matchup from that. If it's anything like the round 1 encounter, then the best bet should be in a good position. Those are my 4. What's your immediate pushback? Or what do you like?
I really like it, mate. And I do like that point as well, that we have some rematches, strangely, very, very early into the season. Broncos and Roosters play again, and Tigers and Knights, who could forget their first encounter where your +2.5 would have cashed, mate. Let's jump into the round specific if you're ready.
Let's do it.
Woo! Give me 1 second. Sorry. Game 1, Thursday, 7:50 p.m. Dolphins host Panthers, Suncorp Stadium. Line is set at -7.5 against the Penrith Panthers and has not moved following team lists. They will welcome back Dylan Edwards. Blaze Talangi will move to 5'8". That's because Jack Cole is out. Mitch Kenny is out also, guys. So Luke Somerton moves into hooker for them, and Scott Sorensen returns from injury. For the Dolphins, just the one change, Big Tommy Gilbert back, their captain. Alrighty, Minnie, these sides have only played twice before. Penrith claimed victory in both. But you think even if the reigning premiers were to get back on track here, this should be a closer game than what some people might expect?
That's right. I joke about a big winning streak, although the Big Bad Wolf, as he said, you just got a glimpse of what the Redcliffe Kings are capable of. Question in the comments, isn't Gilbert suspended? Gilbert served his suspension. I think it was only 1 week. He's back, and this time on an edge. You don't shift the psychopath who did a great job at Seabus. I really believe in the Finns. I know people will roll their eyes at that, given my allegiance, but I just feel you do have an elite fullback, hooker, a 7 that's ready to take the next step, outside backs that hold their own, a fast forward pack, and we've added some punch. I know it's such a shame Flegler's indefinitely sidelined, but Daniel Saifidi has been a great addition. And all that to say, I wouldn't go against the Finns here because I don't think the market properly recognizes the ability of this team, and like how that team was a 6.5 point underdog last week. They won the game by, I think, 26 points. And just because the Finns won, I don't think it's an automatic exhale spot. Look at the Cowboys in a similar spot where they broke the duck, and that actually fueled confidence to back it up the next week. And coincidentally, it was against this very Panthers side. Now, I didn't really want to back against the wounded premiers here either, and you're getting back Edwards and Sorensen, Talangi starting alongside the Prince in the halves, right? Now, I will admit it's an awful time to play Penrith. There are 4 losses in a row, so they'll be dialed in. There'll be zero complacency about this trip. And in fact, they're traveling to Suncorp, which is the scene of where it all began. This was the first of 4 straight premierships when the GF was in Brisbane. And you also got to acknowledge that the Panthers were 1 play away from perhaps winning against the Roosters and the Cowboys, and were close in the losses to Melbourne and South Sydney as well. Penrith has too much class. Of course, there should be a clear favourite here. And I do expect Penrith wins. But sometimes when you get a team that's just so desperate to win, when they get in front, they just don't want too much variance in the game. They don't want to give the other team any chance to snatch it off them. They just want to control the game should Penrith hit the front. It's not the week to necessarily make a statement. It's just the week to get out of Dodge with 2 points. So I know that a locked-in Panthers, 13 plus is possible, but I feel confident that we would win around 60% of the time with the margin falling between 1 to 12.
I like the way you've played it. I like Penrith as well on this one, but I'm going to play it a little bit differently. So I'll go through my notes. The Dolphins, they got the monkey off the back last round, of course, guys. That was against a very underwhelming Titans side, though, it must be said. And I personally have to feel that this Penrith side will come in with stronger form than what we saw from the Titans, despite having a losing streak. And we haven't really had to see the Panthers get too tough and gritty, rather, in recent times. I'm not saying they can't do that, because they have shown it at times. But generally, when we talk about the Penrith Panthers in the last 4 years, we're usually looking at the line and saying, how much do we think they're going to win by? But their backs are genuinely against the wall here, guys. Make no mistake. They are conceding 28 points on average so far this season. And I think for as good as the Penrith Panthers are in attack and all the electric weapons they've had, when they are truly at their best, their defense is absolutely on song. So I can see that as the area that Ivan Cleary really narrows in on this week and really strips everything else away and says, guys, let's just focus on our defense. We need to get that right first and foremost, because they haven't got it right this year. Besides the Titans game for the Dolphins, where they did score 36 points, prior to that, this year they've scored 12, 18, 14, and 12. So that's, what are we averaging there, like 15 in there? So I will tip Penrith from the win in this one, of course. But from a betting lens, I'm probably looking at a team total under for the Dolphins. Now the monkey's off the back. I wonder, do they slip into some past previous trends that weren't so good in attack? And I also do expect a big defensive response from the Panthers. So I haven't found a particular number for you guys that I've landed on there. I didn't have time with the prep for the show, but that's how I'll be playing this one shortly afterwards. Game 2, Friday, 6 p.m. Dragons host Titans. We're in Wynn Stadium at Wollongong. Line is set at -4.5 against the Dragons. No change since team list, and no change to the Dragons side. For the Titans, no Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. Of course, he is out suspended. That moves Chris Randall to lock. Sammy Verrills and Jojo Fafita do return for the Titans, though. Alrighty, Winnie, the Dragons went 2-0 over the Titans last season, and they do come in as favourites here against this Titans side. Do you expect them to win, or do you expect an upset could be on the cards here?
Well, Tino is a big out, of course. It's curious that Flano's stuck with his side. It's early in the year, but you already start to get that feeling if you're St. George. Is this not our year, when you've blown a 12-point lead, not once but twice in your first 4 games? But you have also seen what the Dragons can do, especially at home. That was a tough win over Melbourne that you can't dismiss either. The thing is, the Titans were so poor in their own residence on the weekend too, on the holy day of the birth of Dane Clark, no less. So I sort of expect both teams to be dialed in. I thought this line would be 1.5, maybe 2.5 at the most, and then I thought I would like St. George. But being a full 4.5, in a year where I tipped the Titans to finish a few spots higher than the Dragons, and my opinion has not changed a month or 6 weeks into the season. So I wouldn't lay the 4.5 with St. George. The key to the game to me will be the halves, which playmakers are going to outplay the others. Can Ilias and Flanagan finally have a game where they make their mark, or can Brimo and Campbell just bring too much X factor? I think with the help of veterans like Cookie and Gutho, St. George will edge this one, but it wasn't appealing enough to me to play. However, the Padonis has found his favourite pick of the week in this game. So let's have a listen.
Happy Tuesday, Padonis here. Looking to go 4-0 on the bet of the week. For round 6, my favourite play comes in the early slate, a Friday 6 p.m. game. I like the Dragons, Gold Coast Titans, either team 1-12. I just think that this sets up to be a lot closer than what the line probably indicates. I had it closer to Pick'em this game, so I do lean towards the underdog. But what's leaning me in the favour of the 1-12 is that I can't really see separation for either team. We've seen the Dragons being able to build leads and get pegged back, so they're having some issues and they're going to be desperate at home. And with the Gold Coast Titans, without Tino, still without Keano Kinney, I think that they're going to be in a grind style of game. All their games so far this year have been 13+, with some wins and some losses. I think Hasler's going to really focus on their defense and make sure that they're in the game all the way through the 80 minutes. So I can't see much between them. That's my play. Good luck. Gamble responsibly.
Awesome stuff there. That's definitely one way to play this game, Winnie. I'm gonna be real here, guys, and no one can accuse me of bias. I like the Dragons in this one. I really do. Let me start with Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. Titans have played there 7 times. We've lost 6 and we've drawn once. We've never won here, even on the occasion of Kieran Foran's 300th NRL game. We couldn't even keep it within a 13+ margin. We are a side that is typically very poor on the road. Now, we won twice last year outside of Queensland. One was in Coffs Harbour and the other was in New Zealand. So I just don't have any faith that that's changed. I know we got the win over the Roosters at home, at their home rather. They've got some issues this year as well. So I don't have any faith that that has changed just yet. No Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. This is a player that simply cannot be replaced for the Titans. We saw their middle get busted through last year without him. And what it does is it mitigates the Dragons' weakest factor in my mind, which is their middle forwards. When you take Tino out, that's a much more even battle now. And statistically, and the pub test, however you want to call it, you cannot replace Tino and what he gets through at the Titans. I also feel the air burst out of the balloon last round for the Titans. There's a lot of negativity around the club at the moment. A lot of people wondering, are we back to what we've always been in previous years? And I think that's going to have a negative flow-on effect here. Bad habits broke through the cracks, particularly in defense. So I think Dragons will be right up for this, wanting to win at home and get their season back on track. And I think the Titans are right for the picking. So my prediction here is actually going to be Dragons at the line. I think they beat us by 6 or more points. I really do, Winnie, as much as that sucks to say. Alrighty, mate. Game 3, Friday, 8 p.m. Broncos host the Roosters. We're at Suncorp Stadium and the line is set at minus 13.5 against the Broncos. No change since team list. Brennan Piakura is out. That brings Jaden Hunt into back row and Martin Tapau onto their bench. For the Roosters, big change. Chad Townsend out, Hugo Savala in at halfback, and no Lindsay Collins. Alrighty, Winnie, these sides meet just 5 weeks after the Broncos absolutely embarrassed the Roosters 50-14 in the opening round. Do you think this is a repeat spot for the Broncos or a revenge spot for the Roosters?
Well, that's the interesting part of it being the first rematch of this young season. And it was a demolition job at Allianz in round 1, wasn't it? The Roosters, like St. George, with only 1 win so far, will already feel the season is in danger of slipping away. But this is not an easy game to double your win tally. Savala is going to be a better option to start at 7. Victor back is going to help offset what you're losing in the middle with Collins, but that still hurts given the Chooks were trampled in the week 1 encounter. Brisbane didn't get it all their own way in the first 35 against West. But then, as we discussed in the recap, it was how to lose a game in 10 minutes. That is a reference to a 90s rom-com if you're old like me. I said it on Sunday as well. We also talked about too early grand final picks. And I put Brisbane up there against Melbourne. Could be the second best team in the comp. And that was even after I watched the Dogs dismantle the Knights. So I won't buck the Broncos here. I wonder, you talk about revenge for the Roosters, is there risk of a letdown spot too because such a big importance in last week's age-old rivalry with the Bunnies? The reason I won't back Brisbane here is just simply it's a sizable line. They're going to be very popular given this remains in a lot of punters' recent memory. And the biggest change from week 1 is really just you've moved the venue to Madge's house, which should make it even tougher for the Tricolours.
Yeah, I don't think Broncos will lose this game, but I do think the Roosters will improve their mindset and turn up with a much better attitude than what they had in the opening round, where maybe it wasn't so much an attitude thing. Maybe they were just blown off the park early. That's certainly a possibility. Whatever it was, you have to think they kind of recognized it and will be more prepared this time. The question for me, though, although I have Broncos winning, is that a big enough buffer for the Roosters, or do I think the Broncos are going to clear it? And I don't see the Roosters winning. So it comes down to how badly do I predict they're beaten, I suppose. And I can't really get a clear read on that line here. I think you called it last round, Winnie. You said, when I said I prefer Tigers at the line, you said, I'll just caution the Broncos can pile points on quickly. And they did that. 20 points in 8 minutes. So that does lean more towards them. And the Roosters are conceding an average of 29 points per game so far this season. So almost 30. That is huge after 5 rounds of action. Broncos are also averaging 32 points. So if we're going off averages here, you would expect the Broncos to cover that line. Roosters only average 16 points scored per game. So no matter how you cut this one up statistically, Broncos should be winning here by a big margin. I just don't feel too strongly either way with that line. If you ask me to, I would lean the way of the Broncos because I'd have slightly more confidence in their ability to score points as opposed to the Roosters' ability to defend them. But nothing strong coming out of this game for me, Winnie.
So East averaged 16 a game this season.
They're averaging 16 points scored and they're giving up 29.
And they had 38 against Penrith.
Yeah.
So that tells you a lot. There's also some good comments there about, Reynolds. It's worth mentioning. Went off early, hamstring tightness. Scans are good for Brisbane, but this will be the perfect game to sit Reynolds out. If you want to get him through the year, you'd give him a game off every month or two. If you've come off early and the hamstring has grabbed a little bit, you probably have the confidence you can get the job done here. The other team's essentially blooding a rookie half themselves. So that's another reason to not play Brisbane today. Just because Reynolds is named doesn't mean I think Madge wouldn't want to tip his hand, and he doesn't have to. There is also a tip on this game we can share, and it's coming to us from Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Nicole from Wiki. All right, I'll go straight into my try score tip first. Spencer Leniu is paying $17 on Bet365. In the last 4 years, he scored a try every 8.5 games. I know they're up against the Broncos, but I absolutely love Leniu at $17 to score anytime on Bet365. Guys, with our odds comparison tool, we obviously have it for NRL. We've also got it up for AFL and NBA. Our punters preview article is back. Obviously, the TryPod podcast, you can check it out. Within that article, we've also got the left feed right. We've got the try map and a couple of other things as well. So Google Wiki Linktree, our Discord's on there as well. Over 5,000 people in there. Good luck, punt responsibly as always.
Thank you, Nicole, for that, Jacob. If I can make a quick note as well on whether Adam Reynolds will play or not, I'm going to say he doesn't play, guys. Last round in Queensland Cup, the Broncos feeder clubs played each other in the Magpies and Winner Manly Seagulls. Jock Madden kicked 9 from 9 goals, scored himself, had 2 try assists, and ran for over 100 metres. So if there was ever a time to bring someone in, he's literally proved it against the other options for halfback. He seems ready to go. So I would agree with Ryan. Risk versus reward. Do not play.
Yeah, a lot of people in our comment section agree with you. And Nicole loves a middle forward try. And there were quite a few in round 5. So best of luck for Leniu to be rampaging. Even if Brisbane does win well, let's hope that he can get over there at some very juicy odds.
And as Luke Burrow from YouTube says, Ben Hunt is a great backup at halfback, or so I've heard. I've heard he's pretty handy in that number 7 jersey. Game 4, mate, Saturday, 3 p.m. Sharks host Sea Eagles. We head west, Optus Stadium in Perth. Line is set at -5.5 against Sharkies. That hasn't moved since team list. They welcome back Teague Wilton and Theo Sifitalakai, and the Sea Eagles welcome back Josh Aloiai. Alrighty, West Coast, as we said, Winnie, get them up. We have 2 sides here, Winnie, that actually were the last 2 teams to start a season 0-4 and go on to make finals. No relevance here to anything except that I bungled that stat in previous rounds, so I'm going to use it again in a proper way. Who do you think wins here and why?
So I think Cronulla, and I'm laying the 5.5 as a best bet. 2 teams that were beaten last weekend. I just think I'm getting a little bit of value on the Sharks because after back-to-back losses, I feel they're being written off, whereas I reckon we'll actually get a lot closer to the best product because this team got a wake-up call with a very disappointing show at home to the Dogs, and then got their pants pulled down on the final play against Canberra as well. In the first game of round 5, a bit of time to think about that and a couple of extra days turnaround, which is an advantage too, especially when you're going to lose a day in travel to get to Perth. You get back Teague Wilton and Talakai as well. Manly gets back O'Shea Ole, but it's pretty simple to me that I want to play a team that I really believe in off of losses and off of bad performances. Not to the degree of Melbourne. I've never said Cronulla's as good as the Storm, but it's a similar thinking. I think I've got the stronger team. It starts with a superior prop rotation. I'd say the halves are fairly well matched. I know people want to put DCE like so many levels above Nico Hines, but in a regular season game with the different strengths they both possess, despite Nico's struggles, it's not that much of a mismatch. And Trindle is a great foil and 1A in the halves there for Cronulla. And with no Turbo, let's not forget Turbo's out as well. I think the Sharks have better backs too, as much as I admit Hopewadi is a fine talent there at fullback for Manly. So I reckon it would be a 6-point line on a neutral if I was setting it. And I don't consider this a complete neutral, considering that Cronulla gets 9 days to lead into a location where they've played multiple times, as opposed to Manly on the 6-day turnaround in the sort of unfamiliar surroundings. I feel that's an added edge to make it a best bet at -5.5.
Yeah, I was seeing this one the other way. I really am leaning Manly, but I'm nervous now because, of course, that is going against the best bet. And I've seen some other comments roll through where pretty much everyone's looks like they're agreeing with the Sharkies. Look, I am going to lean Manly here just for the fact I think the Sharkies will be lacking some confidence after what's happened in the past fortnight. I said to you guys after the Bulldogs lost, nothing too strange there. Bulldogs played a really tough brand of style that disrupted them. But the fact the Sharks weren't able to rebound and find that confidence against Canberra, and you can argue they did for 79 minutes, I suppose, but a loss is a loss. Whereas when I look at Manly's last game, yes, they lost to the Melbourne Storm and they lost badly, but I think they can almost look past that poor performance. It was to the premiership favourites. Yes, they were at home and, they didn't perform the best, but we have seen them lose badly to the Warriors and then rebound by scoring 40 points on the Raiders the following round. So we do have some evidence that this Manly side is able to quickly forget losses this year and move on, albeit one sample and a very small sample size. But when I just watch the Sharks play, Winnie, they're not passing the pub test for me. I don't like their body language. I spoke about down the stretch how I thought they were trying to get the referee to win it for them. They look down on confidence. I think Nico Hines is underplaying his hand. I think Braden Trindle's overplaying his hand. They haven't found that sweet harmony yet. They're not allowing each other's strengths to come through. Whereas you move the game to the West Coast, there's some variables in that. There's additional travel, circular stadium, whatever it might be. I'm going to back the experience of Luke Brooks and Daly Cherry Evans in this situation. So I'm going against everyone here, guys, but I actually like Manly at the line when I break this game down. Actually, I've just got one more note as well. I just noticed on my next page, Winnie, this will be played around midday in Perth. So it'll be super hot and dry conditions, which could suit attacking football. So whilst it does suit attacking football and you think an overs play could be there, I would just caution people as well because it could also see the sides fatigue at a much greater rate playing in the midday hot, dry conditions there in Perth. So have a look at it.
It is a good point too. And I think it's a fast track there being that really firm footing AFL ground, which you would say suits Manly. But once again, there is no turbo, and as the Undertaker comments, he doesn't think Saab goes either. So the speed mismatch is not so wide.
Yeah, and the Undertaker's a Manly fan, so he would watch them closer than most. Let's go to Game 5, mate. Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Rabbitohs host the Cowboys. This one's also at Optus Stadium. Line is set at -1.5 against the Cows. No change since team list. They welcome back Ruben Cotter, who withdrew last week on short notice. And their new halves are Jaden Sullivan and Latrell Mitchell. Ewan Aitken's back for his first game of the year, as is Alex Johnston. He returns as well. All right, Winnie, both these sides have won their last 2 in a row to find some form. Now they're going to meet in Perth, which is a variable there in itself. But you like the Cowboys to make it 3 in a row in this one.
Yeah, that's after the Rabbitohs showed incredible heart to win what's their biggest game of the year because it's against their bitter rival. But there's a reason Wayne Bennett said that was one of the gutsiest wins of his near 1,000 game coaching career because it wasn't normal, nor can it be reproduced week in, week out. And I know that Souths do get back Johnston and Aitken, which helps cover because you're going to have to shift Latrell from the centres to 5'8", and he'll do great there. It's an exciting halves combination there with Bud Sullivan. Those are the two players that had the pivotal moments and the assists that turned the game in the Bunnies' favour. But you're still, without your 6 and 7 that you've trained in the off-season, and, even maybe perhaps Dodds could have been an option, but he was suspended, I believe, in the New South Wales Cup. So it's a makeshift halves option, right? Of course, you go back to the fact that you lost Cam Murray in the preseason. Compare that to the Cowboys. Their full strength, you adding in your captain Cotter to a team that has gotten tougher in the last 2 weeks, turned their own year around, has a lot of ability and now confidence. It's a neutral venue, so it's really simple to me that I have the better team that's full strength and I only have to lay 1.5. It's the best bet.
I like it as well, mate. I got to go Cowboys here. I didn't think I'd be saying this so soon. I was critical of them in the early rounds, but I've got them here. I just think they've shown me enough that they can win 3 in a row. To follow on from your points, it's not so much what the Cowboys have shown me, but a larger factor, it must be said, is what the Rabbitohs went through last round. That was a taxing effort on their bodies. And Not only that, but because of those injuries now, how disjointed do they look? I know Latrell came up with the key play in that game, but he did also have some errors at 5'8". He's never partnered Jaden Sullivan in the halves before that night as well. So I just wonder how disjointed their attack might look. How dangerous can they be? And when we look at this Cowboys side and we say, what's their weak point? It probably is defensively. So that mitigates that for them there. Then you add in the extra travel for a team that did it really tough as well in the Rabbitohs, traveling over to Perth now. I've just got Cowboys here. I think they'll defend a little bit stronger, and I think the Rabbitohs will score a little bit less here. So my play will be Cowboys at the line with you as well, Winnie, on this one. Game 6, Saturday, 7:35 p.m. Eels host the Raiders. We're at TIO Stadium in Darwin. Line is set at -5.5 against the Raiders. It has not moved following team list. Also, no changes to their side, guys. Minor change for the Eels. Charlie Garma comes back on their bench. Alrighty, Winnie, this will be the Eels' final time in Darwin, I believe. They met once last year with the Raiders and got smoked by 34 points. Do you think they have it in them one last time as they head north in this game?
Yeah, it's tricky one, tricky conditions, lots of humidity. You got to take care of the ball. I've dropped the ball, sorry, just in case I don't remember. There was a tip in the chamber for South's Cows, a try scorer from Benny. We'll fire that through, and then we'll jump.
G'day, punters. As always, thanks to Jacob and Clarkey for having me on. I'm coming live from the tip, which is where me and my family now live after going 0-3 over the last 3 rounds. And killing try scorers left, right and centre. But I am back for another instalment of Who to Leave Out of Your Multis this week. This week we are going to lock in and lay a rose on the grave of Tommy Deard, and you can get him for $2.80 on Sportsbet. Bet365 might come out with a better price. They've just been a bit slow to release the markets today, and I've got to get this one in on time. Tommy's only managed the one so far this season, but coming in against this injury-riddled Rabbits side, I think it's a great opportunity. He's scored 3 tries in the last 4 games against them, and the Rabbits have conceded a 5-8 try in 4 out of 5 games so far this season. That's good enough for me. I'm going to lock him in. Fingers crossed we can break the curse, and I can give us all a winner. Cheers, lads. Let's go.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, fellas. So Tommy Dearden, that suits your selection and my best bet as well there. In Perth, then you already set the table for Darwin, mate. Lomax named on the wing, but of course played there already. Last week in the Eels win, kicked that massive penalty goal, punctuated it in extra time with the field goal over his former side. Ricky rewards his relentless Raiders that were gritty when required and then magical in that final minute in the nation's capital. Eels, having made this trip on several occasions, you might say that's an advantage and it's somewhat of a farewell game. But I do wonder if Canberra also can gain an edge from having already played in Townsville this year, so experiencing the most similar conditions, of any game this year. I think I would want to be with the younger, faster, potentially fitter side. But the market does also reflect that Canberra's a clear favourite here. And that's expected because Canberra's demonstrated that they can go levels above what we've seen out of any para performances. So if I think the market is fairly accurate, I can't really come up with a strong best bet.
I think for me, although the Eels did get the monkey off the back last round and get their first win, Raiders do deserve to open as favourites here. Here's why I have some concerns around them, though, guys. They have pressured themselves on multiple occasions this year with silly errors and poor discipline. Think the Manly game, and there's been other occasions as well. Now, if you do that in Darwin, you are forced to defend in extreme heat and circumstances that we don't have at any other stadium in Australia or location. You will fatigue much faster than you would typically at Sydney, for example. Now, the Raiders have lost both of their games in Darwin previously. It's the Eels' last one. You'd think they really want to get up for it. But I just don't trust the Eels to win a game here. And I don't trust the Raiders to not have poor discipline, which they have shown on multiple times this year. So no matter how I look at it, this line feels like a trap to me. I can't really settle on anything. Again, Darwin is a big variable for me, guys. That weather, I underestimated it last year, I think, on the Dolphins and Eels game. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I definitely lost my bet there. So, look, if I've got to lean, I'll predict Raiders win this head-to-head. Outside of that, guys, I don't have anything else I feel strongly about. Game 7, Sunday, 2 p.m. Storm host the Warriors. We're at Amy Park in Melbourne. Line is set at -14.5 against the Storm. No move since team list. No changes to their team. Rocco Berry is in for the Warriors. Alrighty, Winnie, the Warriors, they've actually only won 3 times in their last 14 starts at Amy Park. So it has been a very tough road trip for them in recent times. Can you see their fortunes turning at all in this one?
Well, Storm better watch out because their bogey side is coming to town. If you saw Joey Johns mention that. And how many has Melbourne actually won over New Zealand in a row? It's something like the last 20 times.
I'll find out.
Although New Zealand should have won at Amy Park last year. That was the scene of the miraculous Xavier Coates last second finish. Of course, Joey is remembering a time that was quite a long period of time ago now. Some big upsets, I want to say early 2010s, including, big finals games. But geez, time flies. That was 15 years ago now, the best part of. The Storm shook off that St. George loss. They rocked the Sea Eagles world at Brookie. They named the same 17 Melbourne. Pappy went off early, but it was only a cork. And even if he wasn't to play, you've got far longer waiting in the wings. New Zealand would have enjoyed the bye, fighting back for an inspiring win over West and then getting to sit idle last week. And as for this matchup itself, I was looking across the park for where could New Zealand get the upper hand. And if you want to say it's Fish and Barney in the front row, on paper, yes, but I think Stefano and Josh King might be the most under the radar and troublesome 8 and 10 tandem in the comp. So then you've got the spine being light years ahead for Melbourne and the fact that Storm is always frightening at Amy Park. I'm not going against the Lightning. I will just leave it. It was either Storm or nothing, but 14-day lead-in, the fact that it is a very high line because everyone saw Melbourne build a lead that was nearly 40 at one stage last week, makes Melbourne very popular and therefore hard to get outstanding value on with regularity.
Got those stats ready for you, Winnie. The Storm have won 22 of their last 24 games at Amy Park. They've won their last 16 games in a row over the Warriors, and the Warriors have not won at Amy Park since 2014. So it does not read pretty there. Look, one thing they do have in their favour, they will be fresh coming off a bye, but I don't think the Storm were particularly pushed or fatigued physically or mentally last round, so I think that mitigates that factor there for the Warriors. I also get the feeling Craig Bellamy, he would have been unhappy with leaking 24 points to Manly, although it was a big victory. That's still more points than a Craig Bellamy side would typically leak. So back at home, I would expect a response defensively for the Storm, and the Warriors are only averaging 21 points per game this year. I don't really see the Warriors able to compete here. I mean, they have shown great improvements, winning 3 of their last 4 games, but I just feel this Storm side at home particularly is going to throw a bit too much at them. And the Storm won't forget the last time they played the Warriors in Melbourne. As you said, it took a great solo effort from Xavier Coates to get that for them. In terms of the line, it's difficult to get a read on the Warriors' defense from me. Now, they conceded 6 points and 16 points to the Roosters and Manly, but on the other 2 occasions this year, they've conceded 30 points and 24 points to the Raiders and Tigers, who we wouldn't view as top attacking teams. I would expect a stronger Warriors defensive side here, just because surely after losing at a venue for the last decade, you at least subconsciously, you're not going to walk into an ambush. You know exactly what you're expecting. So although every single stat here leans towards the Melbourne Storm, I'm actually going to, for my prediction on this game, say a 2-leg multi. I'm going to go Storm head-to-head. I've got no concerns they win, but I'm going to buff up the Warriors line to plus 18.5 and give me greater than 3 converted tries, because I just feel that it's their time, that they're going to play a bit tougher than what they previously had in Melbourne. And I think they'll be a bit tougher than what everyone thinks, despite every stat being against them here. Alrighty, final game if you're ready, Winnie. Game 8, 4:05 p.m. Knights host the Tigers at McDonald Jones Stadium there in Newcastle. Line is set at -5.5 against the Knights. No change since team list. Some big changes to their team, though. Jack Cogger, he's out. That moves Phoenix Crossland to the halves. Jaden Brayley comes from the bench. He moves to hooker. Kai Pearce-Paul is back. Matt Arthur is named for his club debut on the bench, and Tyrone Thompson, Leo Thompson's twin, is named for his NRL debut on the bench. For the Tigers, changes as well, but all positive guys. Jerome Luai, Samuel Afaianu, and Jarrell Skelton all return. Alrighty, Winnie, we've been all over Australia this round. Our final game takes us to Newcastle. These sides have already met this year, where the Knights won by 2 points and you have the Knights doing. No, you have the Tigers this time, don't you?
That's right. With a start, and I've gone first half, even though that has not worked out well for me. I will clarify why I'm going to remain with that tact. It was 10-8 to Newcastle the first time around, where the Knights outlasted the Tigers, who actually did lead 8-0 going into the break. As you said, Elliott, Cogger, Hetherington, Saifidi, Schiller all out for Newcastle, while the Tigers get back Skelton, Luai, and Fayunu. The Knights had plenty of excuses on Sunday, to be fair. You lose 2 players in 2 plays. You ran into a red-hot defensive Dogs masterclass. Newcastle could be argued to be the sharp side this time around. But for me, it's as simple as saying the talent is pretty evenly split between each side. I'm looking at playmakers on the Knights like Ponga and Best, but that's opposed by Luai, Coruscant, Buller. I also actually think the Tigers have the more fierce pack that can actually set the tone and be the foundation of potentially an upset here. I know that the Knights should be favourite for sure. I just thought maybe a slightly shorter favourite, given the personnel. And I've got Tigers off 2 losses, so I kind of know they're going to be up for this one. I really believe that you get a lift out of everybody when you bring Luai back in. And the fact he's off suspension, not off injury, he's up to speed. The first encounter was tight, and the fact that it was edged by the Knights, I think is advantage to the team that lost, that has that extra motivation to square the ledger. We also saw the blueprint in the first battle, indicating it could be low scoring again, hence points are worth slightly more. And as once again, which I do need to justify, why take first half versus full game? Because the argument for full game is if your handicap is correct, you're going to have less variance over a longer period of time. So you're going to be less sensitive to like one crazy moment, one unlucky bounce, just because it's 80 minutes instead of 40. But if you look at the predicted amount of points in the first half versus the full game, there's slightly less than half of the total points expected in the first half. And that's typical of every game. So therefore, points are worth slightly more than twice as much if you just take a first half line to a full game. So therefore, 2.5 is worth a little bit more than 4.5 if they're at the same price, which they are. So I persist with my style, playing the first 40, knowing full well it could burn me again. And I wonder if you're also going to touch on the goal kicking factor, and it might be apt if that costs me. It could easily come down to a kick at goal. That's how tight I think it could be.
Yeah, certainly. But you would hope that Adam Doueihi is back ready to kick goals now. This will be 2 weeks on from that groin strain. Typically, they fall, if it's a minor one, in between the 1 to 3 mark. So he's right in the middle. You'd have to think he's over the hump in goal kicks here. I'll be honest, guys, my notes for this game are wrong now. I did these before team lists come out. I need to for the purpose of time. And I was going to lean towards the Knights here. Just seeing the changes in their spine, I don't love it. This is a side that has continually tinkered with their spine over the past few seasons, and it hasn't resulted in too much success. I know they've played finals, but I don't like the changes here, if I'm absolutely honest. A key concern for me as well, guys, how much did last week take out of their gas tank? Now, that was really brave footy. They were down to 14 men for, not majority, but at least 40 minutes in that game. It took a ton of guts, and I just think that it has to take something out of a side. Now, they will return home. That's a factor in their favour. Another thing I wanted to look at when I broke this one down was the last time these sides met, it was really a game of 2 halves. Tigers were awesome in the first half. Knights were better in the second half. So I was looking, who's put together the most 80-minute performances since then? And the answer was realistically they both have one. So we can't get any clear read from that as well. I was going to give the Knights another chance here. I felt that with the Bulldogs, being able to fatigue them so much down to 14 players, that took away from their attack and hindered it because they just didn't have the energy there on offense. But seeing the team is winning, I'm going to go ahead and flip my notes here. My prediction here will be Tigers at the line. I think they will get the job done here over the Knights, who have yet another tinker in their spine, albeit not by their choosing. Just a lot of changes in their side all of a sudden. Any other high guns we've got to get through for this game?
Plenty of our audience agrees with the Tigers. There's a clarification seat from Ryan. I was also checking last week's stats. Dewey's the one that missed all the kicks.
It was Appy and De Silva in the first half.
I know that I think Coruscant is the first choice kicker, is he not? But
No,
he
he's second to
was off
Dewey.
when the Tigers scored. Oh, I must have my wires crossed. I know Coruscant kicked the goals in the second half when he came back
Yes.
on.
Yes,
I don't
so
believe Coruscant was on the field for the Tigers tries in the first half.
Coruscant missed the goal in the 14th minute and the 26th minute. He was then off the field. The Tigers scored in the 31st minute, and Talon De Silva missed that goal, and then Appy kicked their last two.
I don't know why I have visions of Dewey missing those kicks. My mistake, and I guess Ryan thought the same. So, in any case, it's not a strength of the Tigers. You have to factor it in. It could burn us. Not that Pong is the greatest sharpshooter either, but it's all worth factoring in. As is the tip from the man who, like Padonis, is yet to provide a losing tip, and I don't think he's even lost a tip by. I don't think he's even won by less than 10 points yet. So let's listen to how the Undertaker is going to play this one.
G'day, TryPod. Matty here again, 3-0, racing Padonis to be the last man undefeated, and I hope that tie lasts for many, many more weeks. My bet of the round, I'm going to go to the last bet on the board. I'm going to go Newcastle and Tigers, either team 1-12. That's $1.80 on Bet365. Yeah, there's not much between these sides on paper. The line's only 3.5, so I definitely take each team with a 12.5 point start. So we do lose if one team blows out the other, but I think it'll be another tight game. These two teams met in round one. That was a 10-8 victory to the Knights, only a 2-point game there, and I think this should be another tough one. So let's get 4-0. Good luck, everybody.
Awesome stuff. There's still confusion around the Dewey thing. Look, I swear I didn't see him kick goals. Happy to call it if I got it wrong. Either way, the point still stands that I suppose Tigers could be in trouble there. That's our hired guns / sharpshooters. That's all their tips now, right, Winnie? Which means I can get us to Clarkey's Collect to finish our show. Dragons at the line, -4.5, $1.90 in most places. This is the game I feel most confident about this round. And hey, no one can say I'm being biased this time around, which I definitely could have been accused of last round with the Dolphins game. But I reiterate, guys, I'm confident the Dragons get the job done over a Titans side, that some of the bad habits creep through the cracks, and it's a venue that they've never won at, and they only won 2 games outside of Queensland last year, one being in New Zealand, one being in Coffs Harbour. So I put all that together, and I think that the Dragons should cover that line and win by a converted try, in my opinion, mate. That is our show today, guys. So thank you very much for being with us as always. We will see you within 15 minutes of full time of the final game, which will be earlier this round, I believe. We're back. Yes, it'll be earlier. We're back to afternoon Sunday games, so keep that in mind. Lock it into your schedule. Cheers again, guys, and I'll hand it over to you, Winnie, for the final words.
Sorry for those north of the border. You had to wait an extra hour for this show, but we had to shift it to be on par with Sydney time now that daylight savings is over, and of course the team list coming out an hour later as far as we're concerned in Queensland. But now this should be your regular programming, and we really do appreciate everyone that tunes in, and we're doing everything we can behind the scenes to make sure that it can continue strongly throughout the year, and who knows, hopefully even further if the results warrant that. So best of luck on your tips, guys. Let us know what you like out of what we're playing as well as your own. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back Sunday to recap it all. Lego.